1. Let's talk about this 1971 El Camino SS that just popped up for $20,000. What we've got here is a classic car-truck combo with the legendary 350 engine and automatic transmission that's just been tuned up. Look, I'll be straight with you. This isn't a show car. The body needs work and the paint isn't winning any awards. The factory AC is missing. But here's what's good. The interior is in solid shape. All the trim pieces are present, which is rare for a 50-year-old car. And it's got good glass and bumpers. With 100,000 miles, the engine runs clean. No smoke, no weird smells, which is honestly impressive for its age. The clean title and current registration are definitely pluses. Is $20,000 a bit high for a car needing body work? Yeah, probably, but it's an SS model and these things are getting harder to find. Plus, it's OBO, or best offer, so there's room to negotiate. If you're looking for a solid project car that you can actually drive while you fix it up, this El Camino could be your ticket into classic car ownership. Just be ready to invest in some bodywork if you want it looking its best. 2. Let me tell you about this absolutely fantastic 1985 El Camino Conquista that's just hit the market at $1,500. This is one of those rare finds that makes you stop scrolling. An Arizona car that's been kept rust-free and meticulously maintained. We're looking at a level 4 condition vehicle, which is impressive for a car pushing 40 years old. Under the hood, you've got the original matching numbers 305 V8 putting out 210 horses and 240 lb-ft of torque, all working through a freshly serviced TH200 automatic transmission. The seller's done their homework here. Recent services include the AT fluid, coolant, and differential. The AC's been converted to R134A, which is a big plus, and all power accessories, windows, locks, steering, and brakes, are working as they should. What really sets this El Camino apart is its condition. The two-tone paint still shines with that original finish, enhanced with some patina juice, and you're getting those rare wire wheel caps on 14-inch wheels with new white wall radials. Inside, you'll find 60/40 custom cloth seats, a leather-wrapped steering wheel, and an upgraded Pioneer sound system with new speakers. The seller's been incredibly thorough in their description, and everything checks out. No rust, no leaks, no smoke, solid mechanicals, and all the original trim pieces are present. With 123,000 miles, it's been used but not abused. For anyone looking for a well-preserved piece of American automotive history that you can actually drive and enjoy, this El Camino at $2,500, negotiable, is honestly a pretty fair deal, especially considering its condition and the current market. These Conquista models are getting harder to find, especially in this kind of shape. 3. Let's talk about this 1969 C10 that's up for $15,000. I've got to be completely honest with you. This is a project truck that needs immediate attention. While it's got some cool upgrades like a custom paint job from 2020, Black Widow exhaust, and a nice stance with that 2.4 lowering setup, there are some significant issues to consider. The good stuff first. It's running a 350 V8 with a brand new Holly carb, has power steering, and sports some clean powder-coated steelies with radial TAs. The interior's been replaced, and there's a modern touch with that Bluetooth stereo. The Marquet trim is quality stuff. Now, here's the reality check. This truck isn't currently drivable. It needs a complete fuel system overhaul, tank and lines, which is a serious job. There's clear coat blistering in the paint despite being only a few years old, and the seller mentions rust in expected places. The odometer shows 90,000 but has rolled over, so actual mileage is unknown. At $15,000, you're buying a truck that needs immediate investment to get back on the road. While C10s are incredibly popular and values have been climbing, this price seems steep for a non-running example with cosmetic issues. If you're handy with tools and looking for a project with good bones, it might be worth negotiating, but go in with your eyes open about the work ahead. Make sure to get those additional photos of the rust areas before making any decisions. 4. Let's talk about this 1966 C10 that's popped up for $4,200. First off, there's a small discrepancy. The title mentions 1965, but the ad says 1966, so you'll want to clarify that with the seller. Look, for this price point, you're getting a running and driving classic C10 that's had some nice upgrades. The truck's got drop spindles for a better stance, disc brake conversion, which is a huge safety upgrade over the original drums, headers and a Flowmaster exhaust that probably makes this thing sound pretty sweet. The seller mentions the engine's running strong, which is always good news. Now let's be real here. This is a driver quality truck with some needs. The passenger door panel is missing, and the seller mentions it needs very minimal work before hitting the road. Plus, there's about $500 in back fees to deal with. The odometer shows 99K, but has rolled over, so true mileage is unknown. At $4,200 firm, you're looking at an entry-level classic C10 that you can actually drive while you fix it up. These trucks have been skyrocketing in value lately, so finding one that runs and drives for under $5,000 is getting rare. It's not perfect, it's not a show truck, seller's words. But if you're looking to get into the classic truck game without breaking the bank, this could be a solid starting point. Just make sure to check those minimal repairs needed before pulling the trigger. 5. Let's check out this sweet 1976 Chevy C10 Custom Deluxe 4x4 that's up for $14,200. This is one of those gems that's getting harder to find, a short bed 4x4 that spent its life in the desert Southwest, which means we're talking about a largely rust-free example, and that's huge for these trucks. Under the hood, you've got the original 350 small block with a Holley 4-barrel carb, paired with a 3-speed manual transmission. The 444 system is working great, which is fantastic news for anyone looking for a capable classic truck. The seller's invested in new wheels and tires all around, including a matching spare. That's a nice touch that saves you some immediate expenses. Inside, the original bench seat has just been reupholstered, which is a big plus. The truck's got a clean New Mexico title and has never been in a wreck, another major selling point. What makes this particularly interesting is that it's still largely stock. No crazy modifications or alterations, making it a perfect canvas for a rest-a-mod project if that's your thing. At $14,200 OBO, the price might seem a bit strong, but consider this. Clean, rust-free, 444 C10s from this era are getting increasingly rare, especially ones that haven't been heavily modified. The seller's open to reasonable offers, and for someone looking for a solid, original condition 444 C10, this could be a great opportunity. Just remember, it's a 47-year-old truck, so while it runs and drives, expect to do some regular maintenance to keep it in good shape. 6. Let's talk about this 1979 Chevy C30 dually that's listed for $6,000. I've got to be honest. The seller's description is incredibly sparse, which is always a bit concerning. What we do know is that it's a heavy-duty C30 dually with a big block engine and an automatic transmission, running in 2WD configuration. The seller mentions aftermarket parts, but doesn't specify what they are, which leaves a lot of questions unanswered. While it does have a clean title, there's no information about the mileage, running condition, or any potential issues that need addressing. At $6,000, you're looking at what could be a solid work truck platform. But with such limited information, you definitely want to see this one in person and ask a lot of questions before making any decisions. These C30 dualis are known for their durability and hauling capacity, and that big block engine can be a powerhouse when properly maintained. However, they can also be fuel-hungry beasts that can get expensive to keep running. If you're interested, make sure to ask about the actual engine condition, transmission health, any rust issues, and what those aftermarket parts actually are. The price might be negotiable given the lack of details, but you'll want to do your due diligence on this one. 7. Let's talk about this 1984 Ford Ranger XLT that's up for $10,000. I've got to be straight with you. This is a bit of a mixed bag situation. Let's start with the positives. The seller has clearly invested a lot in this truck. We're looking at a rebuilt 2.3L engine with only 10K miles on it, plus a whole list of new components including the cooling system, hoses, vacuum switches, spark plugs and wires, battery, and distributor. The body and interior are reportedly in beautiful condition, and it comes with a color-matched camper shell. That's all great stuff. Now, here's where it gets tricky. This truck currently has some issues that need addressing. The carburetor is leaking fuel from the throttle linkage, which means the truck won't idle properly. While the seller suggests it's an easy fix for someone comfortable with carburetors, that's still a repair you'll need to tackle right away. Additionally, it needs a new catalytic converter to pass smog, though it is currently registered through December with a cost waiver. At 170,000 miles, with a rolled-over odometer, you're looking at a classic Ranger that's seen its share of road time. While $10,000 seems pretty steep for a non-running '84 Ranger with carb issues, these first-gen Rangers in good condition are becoming increasingly rare. 8. Let's talk about this 1969 Ford F-250 that's listed for $10,250. I've got to be upfront. The seller's description is extremely minimal, which always raises some eyebrows. What we do know is that it's packing a massive 460 V8 engine, which is a beast of a power plant. It's a long bed configuration and comes with a clean title. The odometer shows 88,954 miles, but with a truck this old, it's likely rolled over at least once. The seller mentions it has a custom paint job, but doesn't provide any details about its condition or when it was done. There's also no information about the mechanical condition, any recent maintenance, or potential issues that need addressing. At $10,250 OBO, you're looking at what could be a solid classic F-250, but with such limited information, you'd absolutely want to see this truck in person and ask a lot of questions. That 460 engine is known for its tremendous power, but also its thirst for fuel. Before making any moves, you'll want to check the usual suspects: rust spots, transmission condition, brake system, and get a good look at how that big V8 is running. The price might be negotiable given the lack of details, but make sure to do a thorough inspection before pulling the trigger on this one. 9. Let's check out this 1973 Ford F-250 Ranger XLT 4AX4 Highboy that's up for $14,000. For those who might not know, the Highboy F-250s are pretty special. They're the factory-lifted 4AX4s Ford made before 1977, and they've got a serious following among truck collectors. This one's running a 360 Ci V8, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, which is a robust powertrain combo. The seller has clearly put some thought into preservation and upgrades. They've done a front disc brake conversion, a huge safety upgrade over the original drums, and there's been some serious attention paid to rust prevention. The frame, rear brake drums, and axle housings have all been sanded and treated. The interior has gotten a complete refresh with new upholstery, carpet, and general interior components. It's riding on new tires, and they've taken care of basic maintenance with new cap, rotor, and plugs. The truck still wears its original paint, which is becoming rare for these old workhorses, and comes with an 8-foot bed, though it does have a later model grille. At $14,000, you're in the ballpark for a well-maintained highboy, especially one that's had this level of preventative maintenance. While the true mileage is unknown, the odometer shows 30K, but that's likely rolled over, the focus on rust prevention and mechanical upgrades suggests this truck has been cared for properly. 10. Let's dive into this absolute beast of a 1978 Chevy K30 Crew Cab that's listed for $27,500. This isn't your average K30. It's been built to be a serious off-road monster with some impressive upgrades. Let's start with the power plant. You're getting a mighty 454 big block V8, paired with a turbo 400 transmission and a working NP203 transfer case. The engine's got a newly rebuilt carb that's smog-ready, important for California folks, new fuel pump, and a Flowmaster 40 series exhaust that probably makes this thing sound incredible. The suspension setup is where things get really interesting. We're talking about a massive 12-inch Atlas lift with front and rear leaf springs, Rancho RS 9000 shocks all around, and some serious axle work, a custom Dynatrac Dana 60 up front, and a 14-bolt Dana 60 in the rear, both running 4.56 gears. It's rolling on 37-inch Parnelli-Jones tires mounted on 16.5 alloy wheels, and there's hydraulic ram assist steering to help manage those big tires. Inside, you've got a blue interior with some modern touches like an Alpine sound system with a 5-disc changer. The truck features dual fuel tanks, a custom rear bumper, and an 8-foot bed with fuel doors. Now let's be honest about the issues. The roof needs work, though a replacement is available. There's some rust on the front doors and hood, and the driver's seat has some tearing. These are typical issues for a truck of this age, but they should be considered in the price negotiation. 11. Let's talk about this 1968 Chevy K10 short bed that's up for $7,500. This is an interesting piece with some smart upgrades while keeping much of its original character. Under the hood, you've got the legendary 292 straight 6 with a 2-barrel Holly carb. A light rebuild was done 2 years ago. For those who don't know, these inline 6s are basically bulletproof and known for their torque. The transmission setup is pretty sweet. It's been converted to a 4-on-the-floor Muncie with a Rockwell T221 transfer case, which is a robust combo for a classic 4x4. The axle setup is solid with a 10-bolt up front, with closed knuckle steering, and a 12-bolt in the rear. It's sitting on wheels from a 73 model, and while it's still running drum brakes, there's room for a disc conversion if you want to upgrade. The fuel system has been modernized with a Blazer tank conversion and custom filler neck in the bed. Some nice modern touches include a freshly upholstered bench seat and a painless wire harness with a modern fuse panel. That's a big upgrade for reliability and safety. The sellers including extra parts, light covers, and wiring diagrams, which is always helpful with an older truck. At $7,500, you're getting a classic K10 short bed that's had some thoughtful upgrades while maintaining its vintage charm. The seller listed in fair condition, so expect some cosmetic issues and possibly some typical old truck quirks. However, with that rebuilt straight 6, upgraded transmission, and modernized electrical system, this could be a solid foundation for either a restoration project or a dependable classic driver. Just make sure to check the usual suspects: frame rust, transmission operation, and transfer case function before making a decision. 12. Let's talk about this 1956 Ford truck that's listed for $6,750. I've got to be straight with you about this barn find. It's got both potential and needs. First, let's clear up something in the description. The seller mentions a straight 6 motor V6, which is a bit confusing. These trucks came with straight 6 engines, not V6s. That said, having the numbers matching original engine is a big plus for collectors. The good stuff. This is a 3-owner truck with 84,225 claimed original miles, which is pretty remarkable for a 70-year-old vehicle. It still has its original 3-on-the-tree manual transmission and all the hard-to-find original emblems. The body and frame are described as very solid, which is crucial for any restoration project. Now let's be real about what you're getting into. This truck isn't currently running. It was operational a couple years ago, but has been sitting since it developed brake issues. There's rust in the typical spots, bottom of the doors and other areas, and some small dents. The bed needs replacement, though the seller notes you can find one on eBay for around $800. At $6,750, you're buying a project that needs some serious attention. But these 56 Fords are getting harder to find, especially with matching numbers and relatively complete original parts. If you're looking for a classic truck project with good bones and don't mind putting in some work, this could be worth checking out. Just make sure to thoroughly inspect that rust situation before making a decision. 13. We're checking out this 1969 GMC C3500 that just popped up on Craigslist for $3,900. And let me tell you, this is an interesting one. This 1-ton chassis cab has some real potential, but let's be real with each other here. The 350 V8 engine is currently stuck, so you're not driving this beauty home under its own power. However, don't let that discourage you just yet. The good news is that the cab is surprisingly clean and rust-free, which is pretty rare for a truck of this age. It's even got those cool factory roof marker lights that really give it that classic commercial truck look. The front clip is in pretty decent shape too, and with a clean title, you're not dealing with any paperwork headaches. The odometer shows 8,800 miles, but it has rolled over, so we're looking at 188 miles or more. It's rocking an automatic transmission and rear-wheel drive, which is typical for these workhorses. Here's what makes this interesting. At $3,900, you've got options. You could restore it to its former glory, part it out. Those rust-free cabs are getting harder to find. Or do what many folks are doing these days. Drop in an LS engine and create something unique. The AC cab is a nice bonus that you don't always find in these old commercial trucks. So 14. Let's talk about this 1984 GMC Sierra K1500 that's up for grabs at $5,195 out the door. Now I've got to keep it real with you. This is what we'd call a character truck, and the seller is refreshingly honest about it. Originally a 6.2 diesel, someone swapped in a 350 gas engine, which is actually a pretty common and reliable conversion. The manual transmission paired with 4x4 makes this a proper old-school work truck setup. With 99,000 miles on the clock, it's actually relatively low mileage for its age. Here's the golden ticket. Being a New Mexico truck since new, it's got no rust. That's huge for these square bodies, as they're usually rust buckets in most states. However, and this is where we need to be straight up, this truck's been through the ringer cosmetically. We're talking dings, dents, scratches, and a ripped driver's seat. The seller's caps lock warning about cosmetics isn't just for show. The power windows and locks are a nice bonus feature, but don't expect this to be a show truck. It's more of a get stuff done kind of vehicle that runs and drives, which is what matters most. At $5,195, including tax, title, and registration, it's priced in the ballpark for a running, rust-free square body, even with its battle scars. Remember, these trucks are getting harder to find, especially rust-free examples. 15. We're looking at something special. A 1985 Chevy K30 with a fascinating history as a military radio truck. And let me tell you, this isn't your average square body. Listed at $11,825, this truck has an incredible story to tell. What makes this K30 stand out is the extensive reconditioning work that's been done over the past few years. We're not talking about a quick flip here. This truck has been thoroughly rebuilt while maintaining its working truck identity. The owner has basically replaced or rebuilt everything that matters. New fuel tank, rear leaf springs, shocks, brake lines, steering components, ball joints, water pump, radiator, flywheel, and starter. That's just the mechanical side. The bodywork is where things get really impressive. They've completely rebuilt the cab with new floors, rockers, and corners. New body mounts, inner fenders, doors, fenders, box, and hood. We're talking about serious investment in making this truck solid. It's been a daily work truck for 12 years, and with 128,000 miles, it's clear this truck was maintained to work, not just look pretty. The 6.2L diesel engine paired with an automatic transmission and Ford WD makes this a proper workhorse, and it comes with a 6-foot Western plow that's still ready for action. Being a GM D31 14-ton truck, it's built tougher than your standard pickup. At $11,125, you're not just buying a truck, you're buying years of professional reconditioning work and a vehicle that's ready to keep working. The seller is parting with it due to health issues, but it's clear this truck has been loved and properly maintained. 16. We're checking out this 1976 Chevy C10 that's popped up for $4,000, and let me be straight with you about what we're looking at here. This is a project truck that's waiting for the right person to give it some love. The good news first, it's got the classic combination of a 350 V8 paired with a 3-speed manual transmission, which is a solid, reliable powertrain that's easy to work on. The seller mentions it runs and drives great, which is always a plus when you're looking at a 47-year-old truck. With 150,000 miles, that's actually pretty reasonable for its age. Now let's be honest about the condition. There's some rust to deal with, though the seller notes it's been stored inside, which probably helped slow down the rust progression. They describe the body as very straight, which is a good starting point for any project. At $4,000, you're looking at a running and driving C10 that needs some TLC. These square-body Chevys have been climbing in value lately, but this one's priced at a point where you could still build it into something special without being underwater on the investment. The clean title is another plus, so no paperwork headaches to deal with. This truck represents that sweet spot of being a project that's not too far gone. It's drivable while you work on it, but needs enough work to make it interesting. 17. We're looking at a pretty interesting 1983 Ford F-150 that's listed for $9,000, and there's quite a bit to unpack here. Let's dive into what makes this truck special. First off, this is a New Mexico truck, which is always good news. It means we're dealing with a rust-free body, something that's getting harder to find on these old Fords. It's rocking its original two-tone tan and white paint, and with 98,300 miles, it hasn't been run into the ground. Under the hood, you've got the robust 351 5.8L V8 with Holley carbs, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. That's a sweet combination for these trucks. The seller has recently invested $4,500 in the truck, focusing on the carbs, tune-up, and electrical work, which shows they're serious about maintaining it. Now, let's keep it real. It's not perfect. The truck needs a headliner. They mentioned sealing, which is a common issue with these old Fords. It's a long bed 2WD configuration, which might not be everyone's preferred setup, but it makes for a great cruiser or work truck. At $9,000, and they're saying OBO, or best offer, you're paying for a solid, rust-free example with recent mechanical work. The price might seem a bit steep to some, but finding a clean, rust-free 83 F-150 with documented recent work isn't easy these days. 18. We're checking out a sweet 1978 Chevy stepside pickup that's caught my eye in Salem, listed at $8,750. Let me tell you why this one's interesting. First off, it's a short bed stepside, which is one of the most desirable body styles for these classic Chevys. The seller notes it's very straight, which is crucial for these old trucks as bodywork can get expensive real quick. The odometer shows 13,671 miles, but let's be real. It's rolled over, so we're looking at 113,671 miles or more. Under the hood, you've got a small block Chevy V8 paired with an automatic transmission, a combination that's proven reliable and easy to maintain. Plus, it's got power steering and power brakes, which makes this classic much more enjoyable to drive than its manual everything counterparts. What makes this truck particularly appealing is that it's a running, driving example that appears to be in good condition. The seller keeps it simple in their description, but sometimes that's a good thing. No elaborate stories or hidden surprises. At $8,750, you're in the ballpark for a clean, drivable 78 stepside. These trucks have been steadily climbing in value, especially the short bed stepsides. It's not the cheapest C10 you'll find, but if it's as straight and solid as described, it could be a fair deal in today's market. 19. We're looking at a pretty interesting 1985 Chevy S10 Blazer that's up for $4,000 OBO, and I've got to be straight with you about what we're dealing with here. This is a single-owner, numbers-matching S10 Blazer with 163,281 miles. And while it's got some issues, there's a lot to unpack. Let's start with the good stuff. It's been garage-kept most of its life, has new tires with less than 100 miles on them, and comes with some nice extras like a brush guard, skid plates, and a hinged spare tire rack. Now let's be real about the problems, and kudos to the seller for being upfront about them. The interior shows its age with a heavy smoker's history. You know that smell isn't coming out easily. You've got some electrical gremlins. Power locks are dead, power windows are sluggish, and both the temp gauge and voltmeter aren't working. There's also a cracked exhaust manifold and a cold weather misfire to deal with. However, the core mechanicals, engine, transmission, and transfer case, are reportedly good, and the weather stripping is still solid, which is rare for these. Being a 4WD model with the straight 6 engine, it's got the desirable drivetrain configuration. At $4,000 OBO, you're looking at a project that needs some love but isn't a total basket case. These first-gen S10 Blazers are getting harder to find, especially single-owner examples with documented history. 20. We're checking out a sweet 1972 Chevy El Camino that's popped up for $15,500 in Palm Harbor, Florida, and this one's got some interesting details to share. First off, being a Florida truck is a big plus. Typically means we're dealing with less rust than you'd find up north. Under the hood, You've got the classic 350 V8 paired with a 350 automatic transmission, which is arguably one of the best combinations for these cars. With just 47,000 miles showing, this El Camino has seen relatively light use over its 51 years. The sellers put some serious work into making this a solid driver. We're talking about a rebuilt front end, new brakes all around, new tires, and a new fuel tank with sending unit. These are all the right kinds of updates you want to see on a classic like this. Now let's keep it real. It was born with factory air conditioning that's been removed, which is something to consider if you're in a hot climate. The orange paint makes a bold statement, and while the seller describes it as excellent, you'll want to inspect it in person to verify the quality. At $15,500, you're in the ballpark for a solid 72 El Camino with documented improvements. The seller mentions it runs, drives GR8, and could either be enjoyed as is or taken to the next level. That's pretty honest assessment.